Morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to welcome you for the Swine conference organized from yesterday and today. And I entitled this short roundtable, "The New Challenge in the Swine Industry." I should say the challenge in the swine industry. It's not new, talking about better meat quality and improved sustainability, and also looking at the evolution of pig production from Europe and other countries. And I'm pleased to welcome Nathalie Quignou from IFIP in France, the French Pig Institute. Christian Finkensen from Denmark and from the CEGES organization, so well known in Europe for the quality of the pig production and for the development of the swine industry, and Patrick Chevillon from IFIP too in France, in charge more about the product quality, the pig product quality. And as I said before, the title of this short roundtable would be "The Challenge in the Swine Industry." And there are some questions, I would say. What about the evolution of the swine industry, about the pig demand, regarding the type of product, regarding the citizen demand, not only the customer demand, but also the citizen demand. So I think maybe you could illustrate a little bit how you see this future, I would say, in the swine demand, in the swine production demand. Maybe Nathalie, on the sustainability first.
We start first with environment and sustainability and welfare, etc. Yeah. Well, I think that we can not only now. Well, I'm a nutritionist, so for some years we have looked for the best diets that can that give the best growth, performance, best carcass quality, etc. Now we have to take into account the demand for an increased welfare of animals. So also, we have to formulate diets for a reduced nutritional impact, and that's why we are a lot involved presently on, especially on precision feeding of animals. The idea would be that not all the animals have the same nutritional requirements, and then we have to supply them the right amount on the right day, and so that we can use in a more efficient way the resources for pig production, and also try to achieve the quality of the product consumers want.
When you talk about precision feeding and so on, we are talking more about individuals than flock-based nutrition.
Yes,
but you are dealing with large number of animals. So
yes, I think that we have some housing systems that allows us to work for on an animal individual basis. For example, gestating sows or lactating sows, I think we can achieve an individual feeding strategies. For growing pigs, it's a little bit different, but we are developing presently some tools, some devices where we can feed each animal based on each day on his own requirements. Yes.
Mm-hmm. You are in the same strategy, Christian, in Denmark?
Yes, we certainly are, but I think it's important also to emphasize that if we look at the environmental impact of pig production, over the last 25 to 30 years, we already reduced the environmental impact substantially by more than 50% in some cases, and certainly that's due to improved feeding, improved nutrition, better housing systems, etc. And I think that's a development that certainly will continue. I foresee that more and more of our customers will demand that we can document what is actually the environmental impact of that specific cut of the pig. So I see it as you can call it a natural evolution. We always been working within that area, but we are likely to put more resources after that in the future, and then we will see a more diversified production, you can say, because we have, as naturally mentioned, we have challenges or issues with animal welfare or the perception of animal welfare by our consumers. So we have to reduce our environmental impact. We have to ensure that we produce with as low a level of antibiotic usage as possible, and with as high a level of animal welfare as possible. And it's not always a contradiction, but it's not certainly not always things that go hand in hand. So that's I say that'll be one of the main challenges for the pork industry in the future, that we have all these issues that are on the agenda, and we can't just pick one. Okay, I will fix the environmental impact, and once I've done that, then I will start thinking about animal welfare, for instance. That's not how it works. We have to address these issues at the same time. At the same time,
in parallel and so on. So, regarding the type of demand from the consumer on the type of pork product people are looking for, so either the consumer but also the citizen, what is your feeling from your organization on that issue?
Yes, I think we stay on a demand of leaner pig. It's the history of the pig production in Europe, leaner and leaner. But at the moment we see the fresh meat consumption who decrease in all countries in Europe. So I think perhaps one reason is the pleasure of the consumer is not at the top with the meat we propose to the consumer, and perhaps we have to develop a new fresh meat with better tenderness, better taste, and to change genetic alimentation for a part of a fresh consumption.
But when you talk about leaner meat, I've heard many times that the pig meat is too lean now. Some people are complaining because it's too dry, I would say, too lean. You think it's still a demand to have more lean meat, and it's the processor, for instance, they are also demanding for lean meat?
Yes, at moment I think they ask for leaner meat.
Yeah.
For example, entire miles for the cooking industry.
Yeah.
Meat industry, they demand leaner meat.
Yeah.
But we have some specific part of processing industry, like dry ham sector, who demand more fat,
intramuscular
fat, and we have not animals we have less animals for this type of processing industry.
Yeah,
that's clear.
So that's a big difference with the Chinese or the Asian industry, I would say, in swine. So looking at we are targeting leaner meats, and they are more, I would say, fond of meat with fat and inter and intramuscular fat and so on. Do you think that it will be a global evolution in the world to see more lean meat?
It depends on the country.
Yeah.
Yes, from Asia they ask for fat.
Yeah.
But we will see the story. But in the next years, perhaps they ask more leaner meat. But at the moment, they want to be.
And do you think that we can influence the meat by the, not only the genetic, but the breeding, the nutrition, the management of the animal before? And
yes, we can manage the fat percentage, the intramuscular fat, by genetic, but alimentation, older pigs, and a specific way to produce this type of animals. We have some possibilities to to increase the fat level. It's not a big problem.
You were talking about the social demand also. Actually, we try to avoid castration, for instance. It's a test demand at the end, but it's also a social citizen demand now to have more taking care of the welfare of the animal and so on. So.
Yes, surely, but I'd just like to comment on what you say, that yes, there is for certain markets a demand for leaner pigs. There's certain areas or producers in the US, for instance, who is pulling pay lean out of their diets because they think, we are actually getting too lean for some of the markets that we are targeting. But coming back to sustainability, that's actually an excellent example of how that will. How that is there's an interaction between nutrition or demand for a fatter pig and then nutritional wise, because you will need, it's much more expensive to produce 1 kilogram of fat on a pig compared to 1 kilogram of protein. So a fatter pig will be a less sustainable pig in my opinion, because you will simply need more input into that pig to produce 1 kilogram of product.
Yeah, and with the evolution and with the importance of Chinese market, I would say, on the swine industry, how do they ask you, advice on the swine production? Because you have quite a lean pigs, and you are experts in producing piglets and producing leaner pigs. So how do they see that support, that interaction with the Danish industry, for instance, or the European industry?
Our strategy in Denmark has been to develop a slaughter pig that is suitable for as many markets as possible, and then basically butcher that pig, cut it out in pieces, and sell those pieces to the country where you get the highest price. So that means that you have fatter cuts on a pig that you can then get a better price and then target for those markets. Whereas I totally agree, if the trend in Europe, or you could say more Western inspired or urban society, fat is definitely a no-go. It's lean. And then there's other cuts on the pig that you can then target for those markets. From my point of view, I think it would be dangerous to try and develop a genotype specifically or only targeting the Chinese market, because it's correct now that there's a demand for a leaner pig, but I think that we will see a change also in the demand from the Asian markets when their society develop.
When they are more urban and so on, they are going in the same direction than
at least within certain areas. I think it's not that the sort of what is in demand now will totally disappear, but I think there will be a shift in those markets as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because in the pig meat industry, I would say it's really more, trying to value all parts of the pigs with different markets and so on. But for the nutritionist, for instance, or for the management and so on, how do you target the different issues within the same animal? Because I would say maybe when you model the growth and so on, you focus on the longissimus dorsi, I would say, but not on the other parts, and maybe the other parts are more valuable in some markets and so on. How do you can you it's a big challenge.
Probably it's a challenge, because for this we have the example of poultry, who are able to deal with different parts of the animal. For us, I think, based on the discussion we had before, if, for example, we could make sure that we can increase, for example, the intramuscular fat, specifically, and reducing the back fat. This is one of the challenges we have to face, I think, for dealing with some markets that ask for intramuscular fat. We have some solution, but I think that not efficient to our opinion. But well, for this we can work a little bit. Dealing with an increased loin area compared to the ham area, I think that's not today. Tomorrow maybe, but not today. But I agree that we have to deal with all types of pigs, all breeds, and probably not only one animals that will be fed for hams and the other
so
ones for loins.
So it's important to value the different parts, but in that case, it's also important to know which factors are influencing more. I would say the ham or the loin and the different. But it's the same in poultry as you mentioned. And everybody as nutritionists is focused on breast meat, but we value also the rest of the carcass, and sometimes it's very important also. So it's important to take care about everything.